So as you guys probably know, I recently embarked on another European trip because the first time I was in Germany a week ago. I actually just came back, yeah, about a week ago today, last night technically, the Friday before. So from September 17th to October 8th, I was in Europe. I was in France, Austria, and Italy. So those three countries. My dad was basically the one who orchestrated the whole trip, and of course, it was kind of a graduation present. We were originally supposed to go last fall, but that didn't happen obviously because of the pandemic and the travel bans. There was no vaccine yet, so obviously international travel was put on hold for the most part. But we were finally able to go, and it was awesome. It was good. There were some rough parts, but overall it was a good trip. And it was during COVID. Obviously, COVID is still raging, and I just want to make this video to explain to you guys my experience of traveling during the COVID-19 pandemic. So, in the weeks leading up to this trip, I was very nervous. I was very nervous as to what the COVID protocols were going to be. There were lots of things in the news about this green pass, and just there was a lot of things that I guess were just up in the air for me, my dad, and then my sister was there for the French part of the journey we were on. So it was very nerve-wracking at first, totally. Because in the weeks leading up to it, I kept hearing, oh, Europe might close their borders to the US because of the Delta variant, because the Delta variant was really ramping up case numbers in August especially. There was a lot of transmission going on, so there was real talk of the European Union, the Schengen area, saying that, oh, you need to close your borders to Americans or implement some kind of restrictions. So the only countries in Europe, at least, from when I went there, that was totally closed to Americans were Bulgaria, Sweden, Norway. I think that might have been it. Those were the only three that were totally closed. The only exceptions were family, I think, but for tourism, no, you couldn't go to those three countries, but we weren't going there, so that was good. So what's it like traveling during COVID? I'm going to give you the rough rundown of what I went through. So, France was open to fully vaccinated tourists from the United States. So, this was the golden ticket. This is the golden ticket as far as this pandemic is raging. That particular document was needed to, check in. You needed to get on the plane itself, when you board the groups and all that, you needed that. And you needed it at customs going into France, and once they see that and you pull down your mask, identify yourself, you're good to go. And getting into, and also each of these European countries, they had slightly different COVID protocols. So in France, for instance, it was very understandable that in order to, because we went to the Louvre and I think the Palace of Versailles, and in order to get into those, this was the golden ticket. This was your bread and butter. So this obviously, we carried around with us. I put mine in a plastic bag for when it rains, and which it did a few times when we were there. So France, their COVID protocol was you had to present the vaccine proof or negative test in order to dine at restaurants, whether that be inside or outside. Museums, it was the same thing. In terms of a mask mandate, you needed a mask to get into any public setting. So that was their protocol. And then we flew after being in France for a week, Paris and Versailles, we flew to Vienna. And at first, I was wearing this mask here, and they were totally fine with it. And you might think, oh, why are you mentioning that? You'll see why in a little bit. So Austria had the same, actually they had slightly more relaxed COVID protocol. So you didn't even have to wear a mask when you were in public settings indoors. They said as long as you're fully vaccinated, you don't need the mask. So, but even with that, I still wore it, and my dad still wore it, and that was that. We boarded trains, we needed it. I don't recall us needing to be fully vaccinated in order to board trains. That was something that I don't recall having to do. So, and then we also went to like Vienna, Salzburg, Innsbruck, and then we took the train down from Innsbruck to Verona, so over the Italian border. And Italy had pretty lax COVID protocol when it came to dining and stuff like that. We didn't go to any museums in Italy and Verona or Venice. We also went to Venice. We didn't do any of that, so as a result, we didn't know what to, any kind of museum protocol, I'm not sure what that was, but masking was compulsory in any indoor setting. However, unlike France and Austria, you did not need these to dine even indoors, because there was one day we were in Venice and it was raining, so we dined indoors, and they didn't need any like COVID test or vaccination proof in order to go there. So it was a bit strange, but that's their way of doing things. But the masking was very, very much enforced. But it's no problem with me, right? Because I mask all the time. When I'm step out the door, I'll put on a mask, you know what I mean? Now, here's where the trouble came in. I don't know why my dad did this, because he's basically the one who planned out the itinerary, and he planned out basically getting back. So Venice was the last place we were in. We did a U-shaped train thing, and based on the cities I mentioned earlier. So this would have been Thursday morning, we go to Venice Airport, and Venice Marco Polo Airport to be exact. So we board the plane, we check in and everything, show the people our COVID things, we board, go through security, all that jazz. And then when I board the plane, I'm wearing this mask, right? So I'm doing this, and it turns out Austrian Airlines, the same airline we took from Paris to Vienna, they didn't like me wearing this. They didn't like this type of mask. So there were 5 minutes of total panic within me, because they threatened to offload me. They said, oh, you need to go over there to get a mask, to buy one. I don't know where the fuck they were pointing, so I'm just like, what the fuck do I do? Like, what the hell's going on? But eventually someone gets a hold of the crew, and they give me one of these masks. I'm guessing it's kind of like an N95, but they give me one of these things, and everything gets resolved. But the plane was late because of me, and I was convinced everyone on this plane fucking hates me, right? Like, everyone hates me there. But no, eventually I was able to get on, but I was panicked. I was panicked because, I was wondering, shit, that means I'm not going to make the rest of my journey home, and I'll be home like a day or two late, and it was nuts. It was nuts, to say the least, because there was inconsistency on their part, because at first I was able to wear this mask on the first time we took Austrian to Vienna. So then we took Venice to Vienna. They didn't like me wearing this mask and the other one. So that was resolved, right? And we make it to Vienna. We have I'd say about a 3-hour layover there. So we're flying back to Paris. And then once we make it back to Paris, we stay at a hotel just outside the airport, and we continue the journey. Home, I guess you should say. So from Paris, I fly American to Dallas-Fort Worth, and then from Dallas-Fort Worth back to here, O'Hare. And then there was more trouble that came in. So the planes weren't delayed or anything like that, but the problem was they didn't put, like, the checked bag I had, that wasn't on the same flight. I had to wait in baggage claim for like 3 hours, and then finally the bag came, and then when I opened the bag, one of my shampoo shampoo bottle I had in there totally broke open. It totally broke open on the top part. Thankfully, it didn't seep down in other parts of the suitcase, but I had to clean that out for like a day straight. Eventually, I got it clean and I'm able to use it again. And yeah, and then I made it home, and that was that. So I guess the point of this video is to kind of show you my COVID experience of going to Europe. And the short story is, as long as you have this, you're golden. You shouldn't have any trouble. And then of course we had to get a negative COVID test to come back here, which we did in Venice. We were able to do that, I think, for like 20 or 25 euros for each of us. And they gave us paper saying we were negative, and we needed that to check back in. So just make sure, again, if you're going abroad or going to Europe like I did, remember you need a COVID test to get back in the US. Obviously, if you're fully vaccinated, because unvaccinated people would probably not be allowed, in most places. You might be able to get to some European countries with a negative test, but you're not going to be able to get into most places. And another thing too is hotels, they require this. So this is the golden ticket. So anyway, that was my experience with traveling during COVID. It was nerve-wracking, and there were some issues, but it's possible. And that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed. Hopefully this might inspire you to go, to travel internationally now that things are opening back up. And if you're an EU national or from the UK, or I think even other countries too, and you're fully vaccinated, November 8th, so that's right around the corner, you guys will be able to travel to the US. This should have been done a lot sooner. I don't know why the Biden administration delayed this so much, but November 8th is the magic date that you're able to go to the US from Europe, from the UK, and a few other places, as long as you're fully vaccinated.